Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some moments feel like they drag on forever, while others fly by in an instant? This new study dives deep into what your own body might be telling your brain about time, and it is pretty fascinating. So what is the big question here? Scientists know that our sense of time isn't just some abstract clock in our heads. It is actually tied to how we experience our own bodies, including all the little signals we get from inside, like our heartbeat. But how exactly do these internal body feelings and how we picture our bodies actually shape our experience of time? And does it matter what we're trying to do when we're thinking about time? That's what this research team wanted to find out. They had a hypothesis that different parts of how we sense our body and understand our body would affect how we perceive time, especially depending on the task we're doing. Let's break down what they found without getting lost in super technical stuff. They had 50 people participate in different tasks. Some tasks were about how well people could tell how long things lasted, both when they were supposed to pay attention to time and when time was just kind of in the background. They also tested people's understanding of their own body in two ways. One was called the body schema, which is like a quick, on-the-fly sense of where our body parts are to help us move. The other was the body structural representation, which is more like a mental map of our body, knowing how different parts fit together. On top of that, they measured how well people could sense their own internal body signals, like their heartbeat. This is called interoceptive accuracy. They also looked at how aware people were of these inner signals and how much they tended to focus on them. So, how did they test all this? For time perception, they used a few clever tasks. One was a type of temporal generalization task. Think of it like this. You learn to recognize a specific duration, say a light being on for 8 seconds. Then you are shown lights that are on for different amounts of time, and you have to say if it matches the learned time or if it is different. They did this twice, once where people were told to focus on time, and once where they weren't told anything about time, so it was more automatic. They also had a duration reproduction task, where people had to actively try and match a duration they saw by making a light stay on for the same amount of time. For body representation, they used cool computerized tests. One involved looking at rotated hands and figuring out if it was a left or right hand, which taps into that quick body schema understanding. Another involved looking at the body outline and deciding if a specific body part, like a leg, was in the correct place. This gets at that more structural body understanding, to make sure they were really measuring body stuff and not just general thinking skills. They also had control tasks using objects like flowers or Christmas trees that required similar mental work but didn't involve the body. And for interoception, they use a heartbeat counting task. Participants had to silently count their heartbeats for a certain amount of time without trying to feel or guess, just reporting what they sensed. They were careful to try and rule out people just guessing or counting seconds by mistake, which is a common issue with these kinds of tests. Okay, so what did they find when they looked at how people's bodies related to their time perception? The results were pretty interesting and, importantly, task-dependent, just like the researchers hypothesized. First off, they found that how well people understood their body structure. That body structural representation, or BSR, was linked to how well they could sense their internal body signals, like their heartbeats. People who were better at sensing their heartbeats were also better at judging where body parts were correctly in that structural representation task. This wasn't true for the body schema, that quicker movement-related body sense. Now, let's get to the time part. When it came to tasks where people explicitly had to judge time, like the explicit temporal generalization task and the duration reproduction task, things got really interesting. They found that better interoceptive accuracy, meaning being better at sensing your heartbeat, was linked to better performance in these explicit timing tasks. And it wasn't just that the body structural representation, that mental map of your body, was also linked to better performance in the duration reproduction task, which involved the motor action. But here is the kicker for the implicit timing task, where time was just in the background and people weren't explicitly told to focus on it. They found almost no connection at all between people's body sensing abilities and how they time things. This strongly supports their initial idea that the body's role in time perception really depends on what you are trying to do. They also tested if the body representation was actually explaining the link between interoception and time. They didn't find strong evidence for this. Instead, it looked like interoception and body representation were contributing independently to how well people time things in certain tasks. Specifically, in the explicit temporal generalization task, it was mainly interoceptive accuracy that mattered. But in the duration reproduction task, both interoceptive accuracy and that body structural representation made separate contributions to how well people perform. So, The big takeaway is that your internal body signals, like your heartbeat accuracy, are really important for telling time, especially when you are consciously trying to do it. Your mental map of your body also plays a role, particularly when you are trying to reproduce a duration using movement. But when time is just in the background, your internal body sense doesn't seem to affect it much. This is really important because it suggests our perception of time isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. It is a more complex process where different aspects of our embodied selves contribute differently depending on the situation. Think about it. When you are actively trying to time something, like a DJ mixing tracks or a chef timing a recipe, your internal bodily awareness might be crucial, but if you are just listening to music or watching a movie, that overt focus on time might not be as reliant on sensing your heartbeat. The researchers point out that their study focused on durations in the range of several seconds. They make a good point that maybe different durations, shorter or longer, might involve slightly different processes. Also, they looked at conscious sensing of the body. It would be interesting to see if less conscious or pre-conscious body signals might be more important for that implicit timing. They tested. And of course, how we sense our heart is just one part of our internal body system. Future work might explore if sensing other internal signals like breathing or digestion also plays a role in how we experience time in different contexts. What this study really highlights is the idea of an embodied self. Our experience of time is deeply connected to our physical existence and how we feel ourselves to be in the world. It's a fascinating reminder that to understand our minds, we really need to understand our bodies. So, what is your take on this? Do you find that your own body awareness affects how you perceive time? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown insightful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more explorations into the fascinating world of psychology. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.